And just to reiterate, we're dealing with Father's Day from an astrological, cosmological perspective. When we're thinking about a father or man, we're thinking about masculine energy, characteristics of masculine energy, and what that entails. But obviously, all humans have both energies within. Today will be a way of honoring one half of those energies, the active, the action, the consistent, the logical energies out there. We're paying homage to these aspects because we need all energies, right? But today, most people are paying homage to the masculine energy. So we were covering a lot about the internal workings of understanding energy, what's going on within our body, frequencies, hertz, how your body operates, scientific perspective, Gnostic perspective of things. After all, we are Moors practicing Moorish science. This is a scientific perspective of knowing yourself. So let's talk about transmitters in the human body. Anybody in the chat heard of transmitters, neurotransmitters? Anybody want to give a summary of just what they feel it is or what they know it is? Just,
It's like a communication system for your whole
Yeah,
body.
like signals, like a signal system. I would say like a mercurial thing. Like, trans means to move. So, move, emitter, moving things around, the human body.
Hmm. Yeah, like you have a thought, I want to pick up that cup. The signal goes from your brain down all your neurons up to your hand, and then you go pick up the cup.
okay. So based on what I gathered, it's messages being sent. So you have a thought, and then you pass a message to a part of your body to act out the thought.
Hmm.
That's safe to say. Okay. Messengers. All right. So before I get into that, I wanted to talk about, well, we already know that one of the Hermetic principles, as within, so without. Not only as above, so below, but as within, so without, right? All right. So we're dealing with the within part right now. So in the human body, transmitters usually refer to neurotransmitters, chemical messengers that carry signals between nerve cells and to muscles or glands, enabling communication for movement, sensation, thought, and vital functions. How they work. Signal arrival. So electrical impulse reaches the axon terminal. We got release, vesicle fuse with the membrane, releasing neurotransmitter into the cleft. We got diffusion, molecule crosses the gap. We have a binding aspect, fits into receptor lock on the larger cell. Target cell. We got a response, ion channels open, changing the cell's electrical state. And then we got the termination, signal ends via
Reuptake.
reuptake, enzymatic breakdown, or diffusion. So we went from just talking about it in a general sense as just messages being sent, but this will be the process of the message, what's going on in depth. So some people might be kind of um, slower to move or slower to act, or they don't process as fast as others, right? What's going on is the fact that these messages are slower. It's a direct correlation. So when we start talking about things like dopamine and serotonin and things of this nature, we're talking about things that help or give our body a oil change to have a sharp thought process, a sharp or not just thought process, but thought process. Like that's the start. But once you give the thought, it has to be carried out. That in between the thought and the carry out is a message. That part needs to be well oiled so we can make proper decisions. What are some things that get in the way of that process of being sharp? The way you eat, lack of rest, right? That's why people get these things. They buy it in a pill or liquid form, serotonin pills, dopamine pills, because they're trying to regulate their mood, sleep, appetite, anxiety. They're trying to regulate their motivation, pleasure, movement control. But do you know we have these naturally in our body? They only get disrupted and blocked based on our diet, based on what we eating, based on how much rest we getting. So let me go. Matter of fact, before I move on.
I want to add one more thing.
Okay.
Something that also affects like dopamine would be like drugs and alcohol. Also technology, because when you talk about dopamine, you're talking about the reward system in your brain. So if you're constantly getting like notifications on your phone, that's a dopamine hit. You go to a casino, you hear the dinging sound, you get the bright lights, that's a dopamine hit. So it's not just what we eat and things like that. It's also a lot of other things in our environment that do affect us in that way. And it's understanding that part and understanding what are other ways that we can maybe release the hormone dopamine, right? Exercise is a healthier way than maybe going to gamble at the casino to get the dopamine hit. Playing a sport, bonding with friends, right? Versus maybe drinking all day, right? Because those still release dopamine in some way, but it's not maybe the healthiest, right? And then that deteriorates the body. It could affect your mood. It can affect all kinds of things in your body, right? So learning how to regulate those and really kind of biohack our own hormones in a way that will serve us best, where we're kind of clicking on all cylinders and not deteriorating. And
Yeah.
I come from a prevention. I work in like prevention, like drugs and alcohol. So we talk a lot about the brain and hormones and mood regulation and how these different things affect us developmentally, right? If you're exposed early on in life to like alcohol, drugs, technology, and all these things, and how it affects us later on in life as an adult, and how it's affecting the kids now, because it is affecting the kids, right? If they're glued to their screen, it's because they're getting that dopamine hit of all these notifications all the time.
Yep. Yeah.
Islam. If,
Islam.
if I may add, laughing, if you find ways of laughing and things like that, that heals the body. And it also goes in with exercise and other ways of, instead of doing things that may be destructive to the body,
Mm-hmm.
just to add to what the mother was saying.
Mm-hmm.
Islam.
Yeah.
Islam and why they matter. Reeling it back into the neurotransmitters.
Transmit.
We're talking about movement, muscle control, sensory perception, mood, emotions, and cognition, heartbeat, breathing, and digestion, sleep, wake cycles, and stress response. So back to being in balance, having balance in your life, not only knowing your planetary, how you move it impulsively, but that dictates your surroundings because you're gonna, once you know yourself to this degree, you're gonna know what energies to be around to level out. That's what this is about too. Knowing which your makeup is. That's what you dealt the card that you dealt. So since we don't have every element, we go to the elements that we need to balance us out. Also, you got an internal aspect. How are you taking care of yourself? Eating too many greasy foods, now you're gonna have blockages where these neurotransmitters not working properly. Are you overstimulated by outside things that's causing you to have it fixed? Like your adrenaline rush, like kind of what you're alluding to.
Like
Or
stress?
no, like it could be gambling. It could be that's another aspect of it too. Being at your addictions. That goes back. Addictions go back to dopamine, basically.
Yes, addiction and dopamine.
Yeah, you have an imbalance. Dopamine imbalances based on how you're moving.
So you need more and more in order to feel that pleasure, that rush.
Yeah.
And that's why it turns into like an addiction cycle.
So now these is messengers. You've been talking about messengers in an internal sense. And just for a review, when we're dealing with as within, so without, is an ancient hermetic principle that suggests a profound connection between an internal state and external reality. It implies that our thoughts, emotions, and beliefs shape our experiences and the circumstances. All right, so let's go to the 101s and take it to you just did the as within, let's go as without. So we're talking about messengers from an internal perspective just now. Now let's go over a couple of questions, Q&A, question and answer. 39. What are angels used for? To carry messages to the four corners of the world, to all nations. Now let's rewind. What is an angel? An angel is a thought of Allah manifested in human flesh. So it's a thought manifested in human flesh. So bro, every human you see is a thought about. It started out as a thought. Through a process of things that happened, it manifested into the flesh, came out the womb having a fleshly experience. But these are angels. What are angels used for? To carry messages. What is the message? The everlasting gospel. What is the everlasting gospel? Something that saves humanity. It's a saving power. It started as, to reel this in back to Father's Day, energy, a masculine energy to want to have discipline, correct what's wrong, a warner of the people, accompanied with instructions on how to get yourself out of their condition, which takes love and unity, working together, organization. Now your conditions are better. If you're part of government structure, if you're a citizen of your government, you're going to reap the rewards of whatever nucleus that's building. There was a prophet in every generation that came along and did this type of work. Get back to the ancient lifestyle. Get back to a proper lifestyle. Get back to a way that's not lewd and demonic, degrading. Get back to a noble way of life. There were prophets that came on the record books and did great work. Got it back to what was something respectable. Where we got empires, but as within, as without. But in order to give that type of message, when you is it safe to say you have to be balanced within to be inspired or be a demonstration to carry out this type of work? You have to be balanced, know yourself, your neurotransmitters working well. Got something?
Yeah. And I do want to say, from a perspective of doing like community work, is that a lot of times the reason why people go out to do these kinds of work is because they've walked through the fire where there was an imbalance at first, right? Seen a lot, been through a lot, and had to go and rebalance themselves in some kind of way and want to help people do the same, right? So I know you're saying like to be balanced is to be able to do this kind of work, right? But to even get there sometimes is you have to walk through the fire
Yeah.
to get to that point of wanting to do that kind of work.
Mm.
Because you don't want anyone to feel or go through what you went through.
Mm.
Right? So I just want to put that out there because that's usually the case.
Yeah.
We want to be better. And then we want other people to be better than us.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now back to the one-on-one questionnaire for Design for Children. Number 63. Are the Moorish Americans any relation to those angels? Yes, we have the same father and mother. But let's rewind. Let's go up to 60. Who was guarding the holy city of Mecca today to keep the unbelievers away? The angels. So let's analyze holy city of Mecca.
The modern name for angels is Asiatics.
The modern name for angels are Asiatics. We cooking now. We cooking. All right, so let's deal with holy city of Mecca first because we got the angels down. I think we got messengers, the carrier messages are to and fro, missionaries in their higher self.
Mm-hmm.
These missionaries in their higher self spreading the gospel of the truth. And now we have societies that grow because they all been touched by the truth. They've been baptized.
And I have a question. It was when you were talking about the covenant at the top. Where was that? Where you're just at the top, right here. So, what is the everlasting gospel, and what is the covenant? Right, of the great God Allah as honoring thy father and mother. Right, so that's the covenant of what the gospel is. Right, is being able to honor father and mother, family dynamics.
Family dynamic. Right. And that's why people call him Jesus, but Yahshua ben Yosef, his name gives honor to his ancestor. Because in English it'll be Jesus, the son of Joseph. In Arabic, Yahshua ibn Yosef. Ibn is the son of. So that shows you it was always about the family. Dynasties, empires, all these were just families that clicked up with the same nationality and national origin, saying that's how we moving, and just organized it. A bunch of families came together, a bunch of clans, formed confederations. And since it was on a national level, even people that weren't direct blood could still come and be part of the government because you have the national allegiance, right? So it just got bigger and bigger. But the angels, the messengers, We move from neurotransmitter, internal workings, carrying out messages, thinking properly in your higher self. Now we're dealing with angels, that the prophets that are spreading messages. But it's safe to say that your internal and external would need to be harmonious. Or when your internal is harmonious, it's a reflection of how your external will look or come across, or your patterns, or how you moving. There's a direct correlation to what's going on within, right? But I wanted to go back to the holy city of Mecca situation. Right? Who is guarding the holy city of Mecca today to keep the unbelievers away? The angels. I wanted to kind of marinate on that specifically, because now we're not dealing with angels no more. We're also dealing with the holy city of Mecca that got put into the equation. So let's do an etymology analysis before we get into the metaphysical analysis. So we got Mecca, Arabic, Makkah, sacred city of Islam, birthplace of Muhammad, which every Muslim must visit at least once. Origins have been proposed in Phoenician, ruined our Arabic Marab, sanctuary, figurative sense of any place one's hold supremely sacred. So I wanted to highlight a figure, because look, even the etymology definition is saying Mecca is, in a figurative sense, any place one holds supremely sacred. So let's deal with that. Keep that in your mind as I transition. And also keep in your mind the spelling of Mecca anciently. Makkah. All right, so let's transition to the metaphysical significance of Makkah. The metaphysical significance of Makkah, which we already established, is in a more modern tongue, we're just saying Mecca, but it's Makkah. I'm cross-referencing this with a composition by Professor Seed Hossein Nasir, professor of Islamic Studies at George Washington University. So in his writings, what I found fascinating, he says many Sufis have written about the rites of the Hajj and pilgrimage to Kaaba as external symbols of the journey to the heart. That is the spiritual center of our being. So the physical actually going to make the Kaaba in the east and going counterclockwise, making the Hajj to the Mecca, is symbolic of what it really means. It really is when you take the journey to the heart. That means you mastered your lower self, your solar plexus, and you've ascended to the heart chakra. You in a humanitarian vein. That's why one of the pillars is love. One of the 5 pillars. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, right? Because you have love, then you've penetrated the heart. That means you've been baptized. That means you've took the Hajj. You don't have to necessarily go take a physical trip to what is now called Saudi Arabia, Mecca over there in the east. That's not ancient. Now, if you do that and still understand this, that's cool too. All right, so it was something else. How everybody feel about that? Anybody got any statements? Something else I saw though. Oh, it says he says the Sufis, the Gnostics, have written much about the symbolism of various rites of the Hajj, such as Ram or Shaitan, and sacrifice of animals. So he's saying all that sacrifice of animals, and none of that is necessary. That's symbolic. if you want to pay homage or you want to show that you living by the covenant or upholding the covenant, show some brotherly love to your fellow human. And since our humans in North America don't know their nationality and culture and what it takes to have a family structure and build as a people, that's the mission. That's you don't gotta sacrifice animals. Just do missionary work. That's equivalent. You don't gotta sacrifice animals. And some, like Qadi Saeed Qumi, have even written the profoundest words on the metaphysical significance of the geometry, orientation, and symbolism of Kaaba itself. Moreover, many Sufis have written about the rites of the Hajj and pilgrimage to the Kaaba as external symbols of the journey to the heart. That is the spiritual center of the being. A hadith of the Prophet states the heart of the faithful is the throne of the compassionate. The heart is the inner Kaaba or house of God. See how they're taking it back to something inner? Your body is the Taj Mahal. You are the temple. You have to go within and make corrections. Be your own mechanic. Assess yourself. Know how to troubleshoot. You have to tap into your heart because that's the reason why it's so chaotic in the world. Is because people aren't tapped into this or operating from the heart chakra level. So let's roll this back in to the city of Mecca now. Now that we comprehend that because Noble Ali had all these comprehensions. He's speaking from these levels. Who's guarding the holy city of Mecca today to keep the unbelievers away? The angels, people that heart chakra they tapped into, now they spread messages because they coming from the heart and they're their brother's keeper now. The light, the Gnostic. Let our people know how things work in the world so we can all build. That's the covenant. Working with your fellow people and doing great work. Pass it down to the next generation so they get the demonstration real quick. They don't got to go through all these years of discovering the information. They just get it on top. So now they can take the information and take it further because they have the information faster. They get what it is quicker. And they're going to do the same thing for their children. All of a sudden, we got these dynasties. Right? So we're talking about Father's Day, the energy of Father's Day, transition to, and that's Father's Day. All these prophets, that's masculine energy. All the prophets that came in and were active, not passive. Noble Drew Ali been one of the last masculine energy, but disciplined energy. He was a Capricorn too, Saturn ruling planet. That's all about discipline. Masculine energy. Right? So hopefully we can look at Father's Day from a different vein. Hopefully we can look at it from this vein, right? Like we always look at these planets. We're looking at the Father as the Son, the giver of life, electrical. Any thoughts on that comment, statement?
Can you go back to the article that you're reading? Mhm. I was reading the last paragraph right here, and we're talking about inner and outer, right? And they're talking about the Hajj.
Mm-hmm.
So even though we have our inner state, the part of the journey is the outer state, which is like it has to still be demonstrated, right? To see what's even going on inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way we can see what's going on internally. So it's almost like there has to be equilibrium between the both.
Right.
How you feel inward is what you're going to exude outward. How do you exude that outward? They do that in this particular case is by going on the journey. That's the sacred rite of passage, right? By going there and doing that, that's showing where you're at internally and the symbolism behind it, right? So I think it's like balancing the both,
Mhm.
still demonstrating so people can see where your heart is at.
Right. Right. Direct correlation. Okay. Any thoughts in the chat? Comments, statements? Before we close out here. I never got into that one. I gotta read that. Oh, and next week we won't have a Zoom. We have a breastfeeding class. Yeah, breastfeeding class. We're getting close.
Yeah, 6 weeks.
Yeah, 6 weeks to the bun come out the oven. But before I close out in prayer, just any thoughts, comments, statements? So I'll close out and then I'll stop the recording. Then I wanted to catch up with Francis Bay, just see what's going on. All right, so let's close out in prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Noble Joe Ali. Amen. All right, so let me close the recording.